Right now, let's take a good look at Nigeria and Jamaica and try to uncover why there's so much vitriol for foundational Black Americans, or also known as FBA, coming from the continent and the diaspora. Please show support 3 different ways, starting with subscribing to Unbiased Sports Podcast and his other channel, FBA Defensive Unit. Like the video. If it's in your means, then reach out with a donation that shows appreciation for all of the long hours of thorough research in an effort to educate you and entertain you. Look up. The Cash App is $Unbiased Sports. It's time to get started, you dig? Nigeria gained a degree of self-rule in 1954 and full independence from the United Kingdom on October 1, 1960. The disequilibrium and perceived corruption of the electoral and political process led to 2 military coups in 1966. The first coup was in January 1966 and was led mostly by soldiers. Nigeria enjoyed an oil boom in the 1970s, during which the country joined OPEC and received huge oil revenues. Despite these revenues, the military government did little to improve the standard of living, help small and medium businesses, or invest in infrastructure. As oil revenues fueled the rise of federal subsidies to states, the federal government became the center of political struggle and the threshold of power in the country. As oil production and revenue rose, the Nigerian government became increasingly dependent on oil revenues and international commodity markets for budgetary and economic concerns. Boko Haram and the bandit conflict have been responsible for numerous serious attacks with thousands of casualties since mid-2010. Since then, according to the Council on Foreign Relations Nigeria Security Tracker, over 41,600 lives have been lost to this conflict as of October 2022. The United Nations Refugee Agency UNHCR counts about 1.8 million internally displaced persons and about 200,000 Nigerian refugees in neighboring countries. Nigeria's economy is the 4th largest in Africa, the 31st largest in the world by nominal GDP, and 30th largest by PPP. GDP, PPP, per capita is US $9,148. The security situation in Nigeria is considered inadequate despite political stability. 68% of Nigerians feel not safe in their country. 77% do not know of an alarm number helpline for emergencies. Nigerians, according to the above survey, fear being robbed 24% or kidnapped, also 24%, being victims of armed bandits or of petty theft, both 8%, or being harmed in the herdsman-farmers conflict, also 8%. Internationally, Nigeria is infamous for a type of advance fee scam along with a form of confidence trick. The victim is talked into sending money or bank account information to the scammer on the premise that a larger amount of money will be transferred to them. In reality, the scammer collects money from the victim with no payout occurring. In 2003, the Nigerian Economic and Financial Crimes Commission was created to combat this and other forms of organized financial crime. The EFCC is quite active. According to the International Monetary Fund, 32% of Nigeria's population lives in extreme poverty as of 2017, living on less than $2.15 a day. The World Bank stated in March 2022 that the number of poor Nigerians had increased by 5 million to 95.1 million during the COVID period. Accordingly, 40% of Nigerians live below the poverty line of $1.90 as handled by the World Bank. Despite the undoubted existence of slums in Nigeria, for example, the fact that 92% of men and 88% of women in Nigeria own a mobile phone is difficult to reconcile with the poverty percentages published by the IMF and the World Bank. Nigeria's human rights record remains poor. According to the U.S. Department of State, the most significant human rights problems are the use of excessive force by security forces, impunity for abuses by security forces, arbitrary arrests, prolonged pretrial detention, judicial corruption and executive influence on the judiciary, rape, torture, and other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment of prisoners, detainees, and suspects, harsh and life-threatening prison and detention center conditions, human trafficking for prostitution and forced labor, societal violence and vigilante killings, child labor, child abuse and child sexual exploitation, Domestic violence, discrimination based on ethnicity, region, and religion. Discrimination based on sex is a significant human rights issue. Forced marriages are common. Child marriage remains common in northern Nigeria. 39% of girls are married before age 15, although the Marriage Rights Act banning marriage of girls under 18 was introduced on a federal level in 2008. 293. There is rampant polygamy in northern Nigeria. 294. Domestic violence is common. Women have fewer land rights. Maternal mortality was at 814 per 100,000 live births in 2015. Female genital mutilation is common, although a ban was implemented in 2015. At least 500,000 suffer from vaginal fistula, largely as a result of lack of medical care. Most Nigerian literature is written in English, partly because this language is understood by most Nigerians.